Margot beamed proudly, sipping her cherry slush drink. She just added more lines to her Cox mobile plan and saved, making her feel exquisite. Visit a Cox store today. Prices exclude taxes, device activation, and other fees and charges. Other terms and conditions apply.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
This episode is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike 4.0 international license. For more information, visit creativecommons.org.
Somebody stole our website.
Oh no, whatever shall we do?
I mean, I guess you could go to the new website, http://breakingmathpodcast.app with no www for all you old timers.
So breakingmathpodcast.app? I mean, if you're into that sort of thing.
Hey Breaking Math fans. First, I want to thank you for listening. I have an important message for everyone. You can start your own podcast right now with Anchor. Anchor lets you create and distribute your own podcast. Just get an idea, record, and upload. It's just that easy. Anyone can do it. I'm on my way to accomplishing my dream, and you can too. Just get on your device's app store and download Anchor. It contains everything you need to make a podcast. With Anchor, you can put your podcast on all the big platforms. Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, Amazon, and more. Reach the whole world with Anchor. Best of all, Anchor is free. You have nothing to lose with a free platform. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Here at Breaking Math, we're in the studio all the time.
All the time.
But when we're not, we sometimes have off-air discussions that are really on-air.
We do these when we're planning an episode, hanging out, or really whenever.
We'll be back in studio to talk to Owen and Mark, but first, let's take a listen.
The following clips are not studio quality recordings. They are on-site discussions.
So this is Breaking Math mini-sode of the week. This is one of the most fun mini-sodes. Is that the way you say it? Most fun?
Most fun.
Most fun mini-sode.
I also think fun is just I don't care. To me, fun is just a word.
Okay, well, we're not breaking English. Or rather, would we be breaking English? Because then we'd be slaughtering the language. I don't know. Moving on. So this whole podcast was inspired by a new applet that Jonathan created. It's a Hypercube. It's a Hypercube interactive applet. And if our listeners, if you guys want to check it out, it's beautiful. It's a visual component where you just go to breakingmath.com.
Breakingmathpodcast.com.
Thank you. Yeah, you can just go to breakingmathpodcast.com. I'm going to go there right now because as we're recording this, I'm here at my computer. And you can find at the very, very top, there's a new link that says Hypercube. You can click on it, and you've got this gorgeous picture. This thing is psychedelic. When I first saw this, you know what the first thing I thought of? A lava lamp. Can you guys imagine if you had a combination of a fractal and a lava lamp? That's kind of like what you'd be seeing here, right?
Yeah, I think it does have. I haven't really studied the trails, which you can access by pressing spacebar, but I do think they have a fractal quality.
Yeah, something like that. So, Jonathan, I gotta say, I'm obviously, in addition to being the host, or one of the hosts, I'm also a listener. I think you spoil us listeners, because this is honestly one of the coolest things I've seen ever. See, when Jonathan made it, if you don't mind me, I'll describe a few details.
Sure.
Black background, but you've got these neon, tell us about the color palettes here.
Well, it ranges from blue to red to blue again. It shifts in time.
Full spectrum, right?
Yeah, complete
green,
full spectrum.
Pink. It's like neon colors.
And you can select any number of dimensions. Yeah. Although if you go to more than 7 or 8, you'll probably crash your computer.
Yeah. So check this out, guys. For our listeners, right now, if you go to, I sound like an infomercial. Right now, if you go to breakingmathpodcast.com and just play with this applet, it's just yours to check out because it's awesome. You can control this Hypercube, and you start off with just 2 dimensions, and it's a square with 4 different colors. You press up on the key, on the arrow key, you can see it in 3 dimensions.
Now, one thing I wanted to bring up about the 3 dimensions is that when you're looking at a picture of a cube, you're not looking at a cube.
Yes,
you're looking at a picture of a cube, which is 2-dimensional.
Yeah.
Because some people might be asking, how can we show something that's 4-dimensional in 2 dimensions?
Yes.
The same way we show something 3 dimensions in 2 dimensions.
Yes. You know what? You mentioned something else as well, actually. Forgive me, I have a few ideas that I wanted to mention. As you're saying this, I look forward to hearing our reader feedback. I'm going to make a blog about this, and I'm going to post our blog onto the Facebook. And eventually, one of these days, we're going to make a YouTube site, and I think we may even put this on YouTube. We want to read comments on the YouTube because this is really interesting stuff, and I think it's great that we can share this. Okay.
Yeah, we do have a video of it up on YouTube.
Oh.
But now we're going to talk a little bit about Flatland. Before we talk about 4 dimensions, we got to talk about 2.
That's a book. Flatland was a book. When did it come out?
Late 1800s.
Okay. Now tell me, that's not a very hard book? I know a lot of the papers we talk about a lot of the papers and concepts are pretty high concepts, you know.
No, the full title is Flatland, a Romance in 2 Dimensions.
Okay. Do you remember, like, what would you say the level? It's like if you're in 8th grade, can you read it?
I'd say if you're a bright 8th grader, you can read it.
If you're a bright 8th grader. Okay. So, well, that or just listen to this podcast because we're going to talk about it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So in the book, it's about a bunch of creatures that live on a 2-dimensional plane, much in the same way that we live in a 3-dimensional reality. These creatures, obviously, the same way that our retinas are 2-dimensional, their retinas are 1-dimensional. So they perceive the 2-dimensional world around them using a 1-dimensional representation.
This was a fascinating concept for me to fathom for a bit, and actually I had to consider just like cartoons, and I thought, wait a minute, so when we look around in our 3D, you know, you don't think about this until you look at a photograph. A photograph captures, let's just pretend a photograph captures exactly what we see. It's not exact. But let's pretend it does. The information on a photograph, as you just pointed out, is 2-dimensional. You can't see what's behind my head.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say the behindness.
Yes, that's exactly right. You only see one side of everything. Therefore, all the information is in 2 dimensions. And as Jonathan said, let's just, as you go into a flat land, if one cartoon in a 2-dimensional world looked at another cartoon, they would just see a single-dimensional line. They'd only see that edge.
But just like we feel like we see things in 3 dimensions, their brain would probably process it the same way.
Yeah. But still, that's crazy to think about. Like, all they'd see is that one side, and in 2 dimensions, that one side is just 1 dimension.
Now, one other thing, and this is going to sound tangential, is that the inside of your body, like if you cut through it, that's the only real inside of your body. Your guts, your stomach are not on the inside of your body. They're on the same surface as the outside of your body.
This is in Flatland or?
In our land. That's why we can have the digestive system. It's like a tube that goes through us. In Flatland, if you had a digestive system the same way that we do, it would divide the creature in half and it would float apart.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So, in our dimension, we're able to have a tube that goes... Okay.
They would have to have organs like zippers.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, so if you were to swallow food, it would tear them up in half, wouldn't it?
Yeah, if they... you'd have to... It would be a completely different physiology.
Is this worth pointing out as well? This actually model worked for me when I was much younger. I thought about, let's draw a cartoon and pretend that world that you're drawing is flat. If you as a 3rd-dimensional, as the creator of that world, you are the god of that world. If you were to take your pencil and if you were to suddenly just jam it right through the, somewhere in the sky picture, suddenly, as soon as it went through that plane, that 2-dimensional plane, those flatlanders would suddenly see something appear. Just in the air. It would just appear out of nowhere. We can see it from our perspective as a pencil going through the paper. But since they're stuck in 2D, it's just like something suddenly appears. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and if a 4-dimensional creature stabbed our world with a 4-dimensional, what do you call it, cone?
Yeah.
It would look like a sphere to us.
Wow, that's insane.
And one of the cool things is, we mentioned the Hypercube app. We got to talk about what is a Hypercube. What is a cube?
Yes, let's do that.
And how is a cube related to a square? This is how. A 0-dimensional cube is a point.
Yeah.
A 1-dimensional cube, you take 2 points and connect them together with a line. A 2-dimensional cube, you take 2 1-dimensional cubes and connect the points together with lines. A 3-dimensional cube, same thing. You take 2 squares and connect the points together with lines. And a 4-dimensional cube, same thing. You take 2 cubes and connect the points together with lines.
Wow, yeah, and that pattern goes on and on for infinity. Now, this has so many physics concepts. Okay, so So why do we care?
And we're back on air. Somebody say something.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So, okay. so if I may, I've been dying to talk about this specific topic. You know, in planning for our episode on language, one of the things that I thought of is a book series I read, a sci-fi book series, Ender's Game and the Ender's Game sequel. So who here has read those?
Right here.
I'm
reading them.
Okay, yeah, you're reading them. Okay, I wonder among our listeners, that book came out in the 1980s, and it has been heralded as some of the best sci-fi. I'm not going to say the best ever because that's very subjective, but it's a renowned book.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been one of my favorites since I was a kid.
Yeah, and the reason why I bring it up, real brief, and hopefully, Zach, since you've read it and you've read the sequels as well, I wanted to talk about the themes in that book, specifically about language and communication and misunderstanding.
Anyway, I don't remember what Orson Scott Card specifically refers to the different levels of foreignness, I guess. But the idea is there's one level it's like it's somebody from another country. There's another level where it's like it's somebody who speaks a wildly different language, but we can still kind of make ourselves understood. And then there's a couple other levels where we know that they're intelligent, we know that they're trying to communicate, but they are so alien and so foreign that there is not a chance in that we're ever going to understand what they're trying to say, and they're not going to understand what we're trying to say. And there's further levels than that, but those are the important three.
Oh, I remember that. The term for the level that is the farthest away, and I think that this is to define species, kind of the way we talk about viruses. We don't really recognize them. There's no humanity at all. They are enemies, and their lives are viral, pretty much. It's virals, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. That is one of them.
Yes, yeah, virals.
Now, Owen and Mark, I know that's probably more of an anthropology-related topic, but I know anthropology and linguistics are intertwined.
True fact.
Do you have anything to comment about that?
Well, I know that certainly I feel like frequently in fiction people underestimate just how different languages are in reality. It's just the wild. It's just amazing.
Can you give us an example?
So clusivity. So if I say to you, John, "Oh yeah, we won the lottery," there's two different interpretations that you can have from that. That can be that you and I won the lottery, or that I and someone else won the lottery.
Oh yeah.
Our language has nothing to specifically detract from that, like specifically delineate that. However, there are tons of languages that do.
Yeah, just thinking. I don't think Spanish does either.
Yeah, no, it's pretty non-Proto-Indo-European.
Where's this found?
Oh God, Mark, do you remember where?
I do not remember.
We studied too many languages. I think Southeast Asian. Don't quote me.
So getting back real quick to the buggers and all that nonsense.
Yes.
What kind of stuff were they doing differently?
Okay, so just in brief, in the first Ender's Game book, you basically have humans and you have buggers. And the big theme here is that you once, through all of the information you had, you identified the buggers as Varels, or as the enemy, because they make no effort at all to communicate. The big theme here, and this is, I don't want to call it a minor spoiler, this book has been out since the 1980s, so if you'd wish to, this is a very, very minor spoiler, it's about the bigger theme. What we later find out is the whole time the buggers were trying their hardest to communicate with us in every way they knew how.
It was Earth all along!
Yes, so the theme is misunderstanding. And in the sequels to Ender's Game, there's 4. There is Ender's Game, there is the book called Speaker for the Dead, there is the book called Xenocide, and the book that I will not mention. I'm just kidding. The 4th book is called Children of the Mind, and it is, I think, yes, critically,
by comparison.
Yes, the first 3, and I'll even say the first 3.5 are some of the best science fiction that I've ever read. But in every book, you encounter so many species that communicate. Their mode of language is so different from ours that there are inevitable misunderstandings that lead to war. And then when you find out that there's just miscommunications, it changes your perspective.
That reminds me of a very sad incident that happened when the Spanish conquistadors went to Peru, there was a misunderstanding at a dinner party, and it ended up with the deaths of 3,000 people.
Oh my goodness, what happened? What was the misunderstanding?
Nobody actually knows now.
Oh wow! And then
it was a minor misunderstanding that spiraled into a series of other misunderstandings.
Wow.
You know, it's funny. There's a story that's complete and utter crap, as far as I know, about colonialists going to Australia and seeing a kangaroo.
Oh, I know the story.
And as far as I know, it's not true. But they asked the locals, "What is it?" They pointed at it, and they're like, "What is it?" And they said, "Kangaroo, kangaroo, kangaroo." Comes out later that kangaroo means, "I don't know what you're saying."
Now, Owen and Mark, are you guys cringing at this apocrypha?
Oh, no, I am not. Personally, I just wanted to hit on the notion of human experience.
Yes, yes.
Because that's what we all have as humans, and that's what makes it possible that we can bridge the gaps of those communications, even though we are expressing and compacting all these different experiences in different ways. They're the same experiences at a fundamental level. I'm talking to one person. I'm talking to many people. I am talking to a person. I'm talking about a person. And there are just so many ways that we can understand our experiences. And that's where those levels of foreignness come into that. If you don't have the same experience, that's all language is. It's a way of delineating experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Owen, and right now we're going to have another clip from our off episodes of Breaking Math.
Why are we making an app and a whole mini-sode on the idea of hyperspace? Because for the longest time, and I just need to say for a lot of our viewers, I wonder how many of our viewers, when they first heard the idea of four spatial dimensions, we're not talking about time. A lot of people say, well, time is a dimension, and they say,
the thing about time is that you can't really go backward and forward in it.
That's true. So this isn't excluding time. When you talk about 4 spatial dimensions or 5 spatial dimensions, it's very, very hard to wrap your mind around. I think a lot of science fiction has made it popular. Do you guys know recently, what was the show? Stranger Things made it popular when they were talking about the idea of more dimensions. They used the same analogy that was used in that great PBS series, The Elegant Universe. Mm. I don't like this analogy. And the only reason why I say I don't like it is because it doesn't settle well with me. It doesn't explain things well. Where they say, you can have a one-dimensional line, but if you can zoom in on that line would be like a 3-dimensional cable, and you could walk around that line. That analogy doesn't settle well with me. What do you think about that?
I think that analogy is missing a few points.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why we care about more than 3 dimensions is because, just practically.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I wanted to real quickly just address something that I don't like about, so in Stranger Things, they talk about the upside down, and they say it's kind of another dimension, kind of like, if that one single line was more than one dimension, they say it's the upside down part of that line. But the problem is that in some sci-fi now, they fuse together an alternate universe, like in quantum mechanics, as well as another dimension, and those aren't the same thing.
Here's why a lot of people get confused about that, actually.
Yeah.
What would it be like walking on the surface of a hypercube? You can imagine it like this. Mm-hmm. You have cubic rooms. You are in one room. You start in this room. It's a kitchen, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You open the door. Mm-hmm. You go into the next room, and it's the bathroom. Mm-hmm. You open the door again, because this bathroom has 2 doors, apparently, and it's the living room. You open up another door. It's the den. Mm-hmm. And you open up the door. You keep going in a straight line. You open up that door. You're back in the kitchen.
Oh, wow.
And if that seems weird to you, imagine a 2-dimensional creature living on the surface of a 3-dimensional cube. Yes. They would go around the cube.
Yeah.
And every time they passed a line on the cube, they'd be going through a door.
Okay, yeah. Oh, that's a fun mental exercise. Okay. So, wow.
There's actually a whole story written about it.
Yeah.
Just kind of Google Hypercube story, and you'll find it. It was written sometime in the 30s.
Nice. Oh, and by the way, I think the other reason why we care about this mathematics is this is used in a lot out there physics, like string theory. String theory has, I think 11. Is it 10 spatial dimensions plus time?
11.
Okay.
10 plus time.
Yeah.
But another more practical reason why we care about it is because a lot of data that we pick up all the time surveys, things like that, is in multiple dimensions. When we analyze it, we have to analyze things that are existing in multiple spatial dimensions. For example, if you correlate that data, you're looking at a 4-dimensional line.
Okay. Interesting. Nice. So even it has some conceptual applications as well. Okay. That's fascinating. I also like to think about the Big Bang. This is just a mental exercise. When we think about the Big Bang, what blows my mind oftentimes is we think about it coming from a singularity, which is also the center of a black hole, which is one. Now, I'm still confused. Is a singularity one-dimensional, or is a singularity zero-dimensional?
It could be infinite dimensional too.
Yeah.
I mean, a singularity is just a point. So that point, if it exists by itself, it exists in every dimension and no dimensions at the same time.
That's trippy. Okay, so I'm not going to answer that question. I'll leave it up. But with the Big Bang, what blows my mind is, why did the Big Bang settle on from we have essentially, I don't want to say nothing, but I don't have a better term for it, a singularity. Or maybe nothing, but
Why did it settle in 3 dimensions?
Why? Yeah. Why? So how long after? So if at time 0, like at the beginning of the Big Bang, before it even starts, or even time, like right before the Big Bang, we don't have any meaningful spatial dimensions. How soon after the Big Bang do we have 3 spatial dimensions and time? And I notice how I said how soon, because that implies a time passing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have a lot of theories that go into this, but
Okay.
one thing that I did want to talk, and they're a little bit too out there to talk about on this podcast, but
Yeah.
one thing that I did want to talk about is, and this might be the reason why the universe settled in 3 dimensions,
Okay.
is the concept of knots.
Yeah. Knots. Okay,
Now,
specifically.
how would a flatlander tie a knot?
Oh my gosh, it's impossible.
It is impossible because the line can't go through itself.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So that, just take a minute, marinate on that concept. In a flat universe, you can't tie a meaningful knot.
No, you could just go make spirals.
Yeah. It would just cut into until the line cut itself.
Yeah, and it's not a knot.
Yeah.
Now, in 3 dimensions, we can do knots all the time.
Mhm.
There's actually a branch of math about it called knot theory.
Fascinating.
Now, how would a 4-dimensional creature make a line into a knot?
Let me think about that for a minute here. So it's clearly done in 3 dimensions.
Well, it could be done in 4 dimensions.
Okay.
Let's pretend it's a 4-dimensional object.
Okay.
And a 4-dimensional creature, though, could make the line pass through itself by just moving a piece of it into another dimension, and then going. There's no such thing as knots in more than 3 dimensions, or less than 3 dimensions.
Wow.
Knots only exist in 3 dimensions.
Okay.
And that might be the reason why the universe is 3-dimensional.
Interesting. Okay, and what were you going to say, like what objects require knots to exist?
Well, I mean, besides our own physiology, which, I mean, that's not a valid thing to look at because the universe could have developed without us.
Okay.
But I'm guessing that there's a lot of interactions, especially those that are in, that require Feynman diagrams, which are subatomic diagrams to model, require knots to exist.
Interesting. Wow. So what you're saying then is a knot is it meaningless in 4 dimensions? I'm not quite.
There's no way to manipulate a line so that when you pull both ends, it ties.
Okay. Oh, because in 4D that's just nothing. It's like doing a redundant thing. It's kind of like in 2D if you draw an S, right?
Yeah, and this has been proven. In 3 dimensions, if you take a box of string and shake it, you get knots. That's why your headphones get knotted up in your pocket. There's a mathematical reason behind that.
So next time your iPhones get all knotted up, say, 3 dimensions, bah.
Yeah, if only 4 dimensions, you wouldn't have a digestive system, but you would have perfect headphones.
That's right. Okay. So this has been a Breaking Math minisode. Minisode?
Sure. And we're not reading this.
No, we're not. This is totally off the cuff.
Off the cuff it is. And be sure to tune in on Odd Tuesdays for full episodes of Breaking Math. I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Gabriel.
And this has been made possible with the support of KUNM Generation Listen.
Okay, round 2. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino.